In January of last year, in January of 2011, there was an assassination attempt on a member of the United States Congress. Congresswoman Gabby Giffords was holding a Meet Your Congresswoman event at a supermarket in Tucson when this mentally ill, heavily armed young man opened fire. This was the type of weapon he used. It's a Glock 9mm handgun. And the reason it looks like it's kind of a strange shape is because it has an extended magazine that is larger than the gun was designed for. Now, the standard magazine for this gun would fit right into the handle without hanging out below it, like you just saw in that other picture. The standard magazine, I think, would hold about 15 bullets. Jared Loughner had 2 of those standard-sized ammunition clips in his pocket that day at the Safeway in Tucson. But the clip that he had in the gun held double the number of bullets as compared to the standard one. It holds 30 bullets. And that's why Jared Loughner, last January in Tucson, was able to kill and wound so many people before he was finally stopped. He fired the 1 bullet that was in the chamber, and then he fired the 30 bullets that were in the extended magazine. It was not until he stopped because he had to reload that somebody was able to tackle him and stop that massacre. In the aftermath of the Gabby Giffords shooting, the country, for a second, at least, puzzled over the fact that just a few years earlier, that sort of extended magazine would have been illegal. Under the assault weapons ban that was signed into law in 1994, extended clips were one of the things that was banned. And when George W. Bush let the assault weapons ban expire in 2004, those extended clips became legal again. Now, there's no reason for anybody outside law enforcement to have the capacity to fire their handgun 31 times without reloading. If you have a handgun for self-defense, if you target shoot with it, if you are a sportsman for some kind of handgun hunting, maybe, are you shooting more than 31 of anything at a time? No. No gun rights hate mailers who I can sense are emailing me right now. It's Rachel@msnbc.com, by the way. No, you do not need 31 uninterrupted handgun bullets for any legit non-law enforcement use of a handgun. And so in the wake of that massacre in Tucson, it did not seem impossible, at least to the Pollyannas among us, it did not seem impossible that that particular detailed gun law, which had expired relatively recently, might be brought back. It would have greatly lessened the harm of that one American gun massacre. There is no compelling reason not to bring it back. Weren't we shocked enough by what happened in Tucson that we could make that one little change? No. No, the proposed legislation by Congresswoman Carolyn McCarthy and Senator Frank Lautenberg to fix that tiny piece of gun law, to fix just the extended magazine ban that elapsed in 2004 and that helped cause so much carnage in Tucson in that Safeway parking lot, that bill went nowhere. In the House, the bill has 111 sponsors. It was referred to the Subcommittee on Crime, Terrorism, and Homeland Security, and it never got a vote. In the Senate, it had 10 co-sponsors. It was referred to committee, but it never got a vote, and that's as far as it went. Since the Tucson shooting, here's what actually has happened in terms of gun laws changing in the United States. In Arizona, the state legislature there passed a bill forcing colleges to allow guns on campus, even if the campuses did not want them. Another bill would have said that every public building in Arizona must allow guns inside. And if they don't, they must set up metal detectors and armed guards at the door. Arizona Governor Jan Brewer vetoed those bills. She did, however, sign a new law to make the Colt single-action Army revolver Arizona's official state firearm. Around the country, gun laws only go in one direction. In Indiana, a new law says schools, public libraries, public transportation entities, and some local hospital authorities are now prohibited from restricting firearm possession. In Kansas, you can now carry a concealed weapon in or on the grounds of any public or private school property or grounds instructing kindergarten through 12th graders. Utah passed a similar law, but decided that kindergarten wasn't quite young enough. The new law in Utah also allows you to bring your gun within 1,000 feet of buildings that house preschools and daycare centers. Maine now lets you bring your gun into state parks. Same with North Carolina. North Carolinians may now store their firearms also in their cars, in their parking areas outside the state capitol. North Carolina also made it easier last year for minors to possess handguns. Not minors as in coal miners, but minors as in kids, never too young. Ohio's Republican legislature felt an urgent need to pass a law that allows concealed weapon permit holders to bring their guns into restaurants and arenas and into bars. What could possibly go wrong? Also in Ohio, if you are a person convicted of a drug offense, you no longer have to worry about losing ownership of your gun. You get to keep it. And in Florida, where Trayvon Martin was killed, new laws say concealed weapon permit holders can openly carry firearms. Another new law makes concealed carry records confidential, and county authorities can no longer impose waiting periods on firearms sales. And this is just partial. This is arbitrarily chosen in terms of new gun laws since the Tucson massacre in just a random list of states. Anywhere else you look in the country, it's the same story. People don't write gun laws. The gun lobby does. After the Trayvon Martin shooting on February 26th, the National Rifle Association was still lobbying hard for Minnesota to adopt a law like the Florida Stand Your Ground law that prevented the Trayvon Martin shooter from being arrested. The Democratic governor of Minnesota vetoed it, but that's a bit of a policy miracle. After Governor Jeb Bush signed the first Stand Your Ground bill into law in 2005 in Florida, as you can see here with NRA lobbyist Marion Hammer beaming down over his shoulder as he signed it, nearly 24 states have followed with their own laws similar to Florida's. And the NRA now wants there to be a federal law that would force this regulation on states around the country that don't want it. This is generally the way that gun politics works. All the changes in law go in the same direction. All the changes in law go toward more guns in more places and more legal excuses for shooting people. And once one state stakes out what used to be radical ground in terms of clearing the way for more guns and more legal excuses for shootings, as soon as one state clears that ground, like Florida did in 2005, as soon as one state goes there, all of the other states rush toward that newly cleared ground. I was one of the people who thought that after Tucson, we could at least have one tiny little tick toward regulating just the size of the magazines for ammunition in handguns as a tiny correction for a nation that was legitimately shocked by the horror of what happened in Tucson. I thought that could happen after Tucson. I was wrong. Gun law changes only go in one direction. The Florida State Senate president says now, even in the midst of the national uproar over the Trayvon Martin shooting and the fact that Florida's gun law says that that shooter can't be arrested, he says that the Florida Senate will not be reviewing the law. Usually on policy issues like this, we say, what would it take? What would it take to make us look at this issue differently? What would it take to shock us out of the pattern that we're in? What would it take to swing the pendulum back now that it has swung so radically far in one direction? What would it take? In the case of gun laws and the gun lobby, we have an answer. It doesn't matter. Anything could happen. It doesn't matter. No matter what happens in the country in terms of gun violence or how we feel about it, there is no outcry loud enough. There is no shock or horror that is too grave. We do not get to make these decisions about our laws in this country. We do not get to make these decisions about laws concerning guns. They do. They're the gun lobby, and they decide. At least that's how they want it to be, and at least that's how they have had it so far.